Honestly, after that guy ran away with my $3,000, I had nothing left. I wanted to quit so bad. She texted me for several days after that, saying again and again how she was gonna sue me, she was gonna see me in court, and that she was already talking to her lawyer. I was so blindsided, I was dumbfounded, and after I hung up, I cried a lot. I thought about having to tell my husband that. What is up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be revealing my biggest business flops to date. And I think it's so easy to look at online entrepreneurs, look at big successful YouTubers and think, wow, they made all the right decisions. They made all of the perfect choices, and that's what got them to this point. And I am going to challenge you big time on that mindset today. I think every single person that starts their own business has fears. The difference is not making right or wrong choices necessarily, but more so, are you going to let these fears hold you back, or are you going to take initiative and take messy action? And even though you fail, you're going to keep pushing forward. The transparency that I'm going to share in this video is very scary, but this message is so important. I didn't get to this position and where I am today because I avoided failure at all costs. I got to this position because I learned from the failures. If you have never seen a video like this before, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to know in the comments below which failure resonates with you the most. What big fear is holding you back from starting your own business or growing your business? Let's start with number one, getting fired by my first monthly client. This was without a doubt the lowest point in my business. I had just started my business. I was like 3 or 4 months in. I had just signed my first monthly client, and he let me go shortly after working together. The reality was it wasn't a great fit for me or for the client that I was working with, but to be let go, to get fired by a client that early on, right after signing them, it was absolutely devastating. Looking back, it was very clear that it wasn't a good fit, and the important thing here is that setting healthy boundaries and really sticking to your guns, especially early on in your business, is so important. I actually go into all the details and all the background on him firing me as the bookkeeper in this video here. And later on, several months later, he actually called me back and said that I could take over the account again. The other bookkeeper that he had hired wasn't working out, and I had to say no. I referred him to some other bookkeepers that I knew that dealt with business structures similar to his, but it just wasn't a good fit for us. It was so tempting to take him back because the whole account was probably going to be a couple $1,000s a month, and goodness knows I could have done a lot with that money back in 2018. But again, I just went back to my roots. I knew what kind of business structure I was looking for. I knew what kind of entrepreneur I wanted to work with, and it just wasn't him. But taking you back into that moment where I answer the phone call from the client, he lets me know that he wants to discontinue services, and I was so blindsided, I was dumbfounded, and after I hung up, I cried a lot. I thought about having to tell my husband that my first monthly client had fired me. I dreaded doing that. I felt just like such a failure. I wanted to give up so bad, so bad. And I'm so glad that I didn't. But if that's your worst fear, getting fired by a client, I'm here to tell you it happened to me and I didn't die. Big failure number 2 is a little bit more involved, but the end of it ends up with me wasting $3,000. And honestly, that wasn't even the worst part of the whole thing. It has been a wild ride with my website, One of my weaknesses as an entrepreneur is design. I will completely own that. I'm just so analytical. I really struggle with the design and branding part of being an online business and being an entrepreneur. But I'm here to tell you that I have designed my entire website. I've done all my funnels. Everything under my URL is things that I have designed. And it wasn't supposed to be that way. That was never a part of the plan. I had to do it out of necessity. So here's the story. When I migrated everything to Kajabi in the summer of 2019, I really wanted to rebrand everything and update everything since it was going to have to be created from scratch anyway. So I started looking around, and it was so hard to find someone that did this specifically in Kajabi and did what I was looking for. So I finally thought I had found someone. We had talked some back and forth online. It sounded like it was going to be a great fit. I loved the work that he did, and he showed me a lot of the websites that he had designed in the past. When we got on the phone call, he started asking me some things about the business, and eventually he just came out and said, "Your business is way too small for what I do. I only work with much bigger accounts, much bigger businesses." And we had been talking for like a week or two at this point, really refining what I was looking for. And so I was devastated, number one, to have lost all of that time that we had been really working toward working together. And I was also devastated that my business just wasn't big enough for something that he wanted to work with. I had grown so much since starting my business from literally nothing. And really in 2019, I ended up making over $70,000. And to hear someone say, "No, I don't want to work with you. You're still not big enough. You're not running a successful company yet." It felt so personal. And this is one of the first times really that something that someone said just seemed really, really personal to me. What's crazy is that I had also applied for a small mastermind that week, and I didn't get a reply. I never got anything in return after I had applied, and the start date came and went. And so finally I followed up and I reached out and said, "Hey, I applied for this," and I never heard anything back. And so they decided to get on a call with me, and basically the guy that was in charge of the onboarding part of the mastermind was extremely rude to me. And he even said things like, "You're not really an entrepreneur, you're not even really a business owner, you're still just self-employed." And this was the exact same week that I also got turned down by the designer. So cue more crying after that phone call. I think the most frustrating thing for me that week is that I was so overwhelmed. I had a lot of business, almost more business than I could handle, which is one of the best problems to have. And yet I had cash in hand asking people for help, going and trying to vet all of these places where I could probably get some help and outsource and learn from people who were further along than I was. And with cash in hand, I was getting turned down, and I just felt so alone, so overwhelmed. I just keep going back to the word alone. I don't know. That was also one of the lowest points in my business. A couple days later, I find sort of a mutual friend who says he can help me, says he can fulfill what I'm looking for with the website. And this is where I end up wasting $3,000, and it's a total flop. I jump at the chance probably too quickly to work with this person because at this point, God knows when I'll find someone else who's willing to help me. I pay them upfront the $3,000, and there's just this huge miscommunication on what I need versus what they provide. Still to this day, I'm not like 100% sure what they provide, but it's a total flop. I tried to salvage some of what they had built out. It wasn't at all what I was looking for. Like I said, I just think I said yes too quickly without properly vetting them because I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to find anyone else. Total scarcity mindset set in and completely backfired against me. I tried to make it work, but I end up just scrapping the whole thing. So if you're keeping score at this point, it's 0 to 3. I still don't have a website. I'm now out how many weeks of work in trying to find someone, and I'm also out $3,000. At this point, I decide I am completely done outsourcing this. I can't literally afford to get burnt again, money-wise, and I just can't afford to spend any more time finding someone and then having it flop again. So I decide I'm just going to learn how to do this. This was a really lonely call. Like I mentioned earlier, it was out of necessity that I created my own website, and it took me a long time to do so. It's been very telling. Over the past few months, I've been in a wonderful group coaching program, and part of the program was revamping our website and updating it and adding a lot of other stuff. And most of the entrepreneurs simply got the templates, they got the copy, and they passed it on to their website designer, and they were done. They could move on to the next thing. That wasn't me. That was again a very tough call, but I took a deep breath and I redesigned and revamped everything myself. And it's been good. The one good thing that has come out of this is that these other entrepreneurs, I see them complaining sometimes in the group about things breaking down or things needed to be further tweaked, and they don't know how to fix it because they don't know how anything on their website works. I want to be clear here though, I'm not advocating that you need to be a jack of all trades in your business. You won't be able to do that. You'll spread yourself too thin and you ultimately won't be in your zone of genius. Honestly, after that guy ran away with my $3,000, I had nothing left. I wanted to quit so bad. I had no money left to spend on the website and I had no time left to try and vet and find someone that would do it for the price point that I could afford. But I also want you to be empowered to have this okay, I'll just do it myself attitude. But I also knew that I had come too far to not see this through. I want you to see it through, even when you have nothing left, even when the cards are stacked against you. Big business fail number 3 is that when I first started financial coaching, I hosted not 1, but 2 free budgeting workshops, and I had zero people show up. I've had a few launches in my business, quote unquote flop, meaning they didn't quite go the way that I wanted them to, but I've literally never had a launch where 0 people purchased except for these workshops, and they were free. It literally cost nothing and still nobody attended. So this one really hurt. I mean, it's easy whenever there's a price because then people object, it's too expensive, I can't afford it. This one felt very personal because they were just rejecting me. People just really must have thought that I couldn't help. I wanted to share this story of John Acuff, and he has this picture here that he shared in 2019. And I absolutely love this picture because he says, 11 years ago, I held my first meetup. I thought 100 people would come. I invited everyone I knew. I talked about it a ton on social media and brought enough stickers for a crowd of about 1,000. You know how many people came? 2. I think about this moment sometimes because it felt like a failure, but really it wasn't. It wasn't a failure. It was a beginning, and that's how beginnings often look. It's you, alone in a room, working on something you care about, trying to get other people to care too. It always takes longer than you want, and always slower than you want, but it's worth it. Here's to lonely beginnings and the bravery to keep going on what you're working on. That just sums up so well how I felt in that moment and how I feel now. That's just how beginnings often look. So cheers to lonely beginnings. And finally, number 4, the big business fail that you've all been waiting for, I'm sure, is that when I started my business, I had picked up a couple clients during tax season, and one of those clients threatened to sue me. You heard me right. If that wasn't a part of your top 10 fears of starting a business, you can go ahead and add that to the list. All jokes aside, I was a brand new business owner. I was covering my butt the best I knew, but when this psycho threatened to sue me, I was scared out of my mind. Here's the story. It was 2018. It was my first tax season. I was working with several accountants. They were referring work to me, and I picked up this client who needed several years of back work. So I started working with this business owner, and keep in mind, it was early on. I was notorious for thinking that I could fix each and every business owner, even when that business owner didn't want to be fixed. It was very clear right from the get-go that this business was a complete disaster. They had absolutely no bookkeeping documentation at all, and they were in the health and wellness industry. They needed so much better processes and systems of handling client paperwork. That part makes me a little sick. I really don't even know if they were compliant in any sense of the word. So needless to say, really, the documentation and communication between us was basically non-existent. Communication and organization is something that you have to have at least a small grasp of in order to outsource your bookkeeping to begin with. And this was ultimately their biggest downfall as business owners. They had zero of both of those. So I started the cleanup for her, which was years, by the way, not months. It was just a lot of back and forth. She didn't understand what I needed. I was trying to get statements and check images and very simple things from her, and all of a sudden communication just stopped. I tried calling her, I tried emailing, texting her. I couldn't get a hold of her at all. And then all of a sudden out of the blue, she would just start sending me the wrong things, or she would handwrite things and then take a picture of the handwritten note and send that to me. And I'm like, why did you handwrite this? I can't even read what you wrote. And you're probably laughing if you're watching this video at this point at how ridiculous this was, as you should be, but it was absolutely infuriating. She hand wrote me stuff like 4 or 5 times. At this point, it's been months of this back and forth, quote unquote, communication with absolutely no progress actually being made. And finally, I wrote her a very professional email of, hey, if you can't get me this documentation in the next 30 days, I'm gonna have to discontinue my services. As you can imagine, 30 days come and go, and I sent her an email with the discontinuation of services letter and the terms of our separation. She explodes. She demands a refund. She says she has enough documentation to take me to court and to sue me, which is really ironic because the whole reason we're in this mess is that you had zero documentation. It's funny now, of course, but at the time I was really freaking out. I mean, it had been months ago that she had paid me that $1,800 or whatever it was to do all of the cleanup, and that $1,800 was long gone. Plus, I had spent probably 4 or 5 times the amount of time I had planned on to do all of this cleanup. I was very clear on my terms when I had warned her about the 30-day cutoff, and I felt very confident in not refunding her request because this had already taken so much longer than our initial agreement. I don't even think it was about the money. I don't think she actually knew how much she had paid me. I don't think she had a clue. She texted me for several days after that, demanding that I finish the work, saying again and again how she was going to sue me, she was going to see me in court, and that she was already talking to her lawyer. I was definitely doing laps around the anxiety pool, but I knew that she had signed our contract and that she had not held up her end of the contract. So I knew I was in the clear. After a couple of days, it really started to set in that these were most definitely empty threats and that she was probably just an overall really hurting, overwhelmed individual. That concludes my 4 biggest business flops. And I didn't even go into all the little rejections here and there, getting turned down for podcast interviews and blah, blah, blah. But these 4 really do, I think, take the cake. If you got value out of this video today, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.